Hey everyone, Clayton Smith here, and today we're going to talk about Cisco threat response. So we're going to continue on in my office tour, and we're going to talk about Cisco threat response. Now, real quickly, I've done a demo on Cisco threat response before. It's actually on this channel. I'll link to it below. I haven't been asking for this, but if you like the videos you've seen so far, please hit subscribe. I'll be releasing some new videos, in fact, planning a whole new series that's coming up. So please hit subscribe. And take a look at that Cisco threat response video if you're not familiar with Cisco threat response. So the demo we're going to do today actually isn't focused on learning Cisco threat response. It's focused on an investigation that I mentioned on a previous video. So play clip a previous video. All right, so I can see, for instance, my iPad Pro right here is reaching out to an external IP that is connected to China. Now, I happen to know, and I can validate these through both Cisco threat response and also by going into my firewall. I have geo IP blocks on my firewall. That's not perfect, but I could very easily take that IP from here and actually put it on a ban list. So if I decide that I don't want to have that IP, I can immediately, using Cisco threat response, I can put it on my firewall ban list. I can put it in my for endpoints ban list. I can put it in Umbrella's ban list. All of those just by simply using some of these observations that are here. All right, so here we are in Cisco threat response. So from the previous video, obviously I wanted to investigate a Chinese IP address that was showing up in StealthWatch Cloud. And so what I did for that is I actually created a casebook. And so the casebook is down here in the lower right corner. You'll notice I'm going to open up my casebook. And here's the investigation that I did. Swatch C, discover Chinese callout. Okay, my description and any notes that I made along with that. So I did add it to my block list, and I blocked some associated domains. So I explicitly blocked it on the firewall, and GeoIP was already blocking the request. But I specifically went into the firewall and actually banned this. However, let's do an investigation so you guys can see exactly what I saw when I did an investigation. So it will pull in all the indications of compromise that were associated with this. Now, in my case, the indication of compromise happened to be, and not even indication of compromise, because this wasn't a compromise, but happened to be the IP address itself. That's what I wanted to investigate. So right now, what's going on is Cisco threat response is actually reaching out to all of my different information sources, including the information sources that I have both on my network and also intelligence sources such as Talos or Investigate with Umbrella, and it's pulling all of this data together, and it's going to give me this really nice relationship graph, okay? And so it's finishing that up. It's going to do some consolidation. This is actually something I just noticed recently, so I'm guessing this is a new feature because this is the first time that I saw this happen, where it takes what is a very, very large relations graph, which is this area on the lower right, and actually categorizes it. So it's a lot easier to work with because, again, it's a lot of different things. I mean, there's at least, 50 to 100 different items that would have been on this page. But what I can see very, very quickly is that there's domains over here, there's some URLs, and there's some SHA-256 or some fingerprints, file fingerprints that are all here. And they're categorized very, very nicely. So just by looking at this for a second, I can tell, look, this IP address, although notice on the right-hand side where it actually says under judgment, it says that it's an unknown disposition. And the reason is because it's neutral based on reputation status. So the IP address itself is not bad. So it's important for me to make sure that I'm clear. This is not a breach. This is not somewhere that was malicious that my network was going out to. But it raised a red flag for me because I personally didn't want to have IP addresses that were, or to have traffic that was reaching out to IP addresses in China. It was just something that I didn't want on my network. So what I wanted to do is certainly take a look at, well, what are the permissed domains that are associated with this IP address? Well, check these out. These are all Amazon. So clearly something is likely reaching out to Amazon. And I did some more research on this and actually found out it had to do with the Prime Video app that was actually calling out to China. I still don't know why, and if any of you do, please make a comment, let me know. But what I may want to do from here is do some further investigation on any one of these domains, or actually take a look at this in possibly Talos Intelligence. So let's search this IP in the Talos Intelligence. It'll bring up another window. This can enhance my research here. All right, it tells me some things right away. So it tells me who the owner is, China Unicom, the location, it's in Beijing. It tells me if there's any sort of spam levels that are associated with it. and all kinds of information, including who is data. So this is going to be really helpful in my investigation. In my case, this didn't shine too much light on it, mostly stuff that I knew, except it's not showing me any big red flags. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to take a look at is maybe I want to take a look at some of these domains. So obviously there's some domains that are red. This means these are malicious domains, or we've marked them as malicious, right? So these are domains that are already being blocked on my network. The same being said for these fingerprints right here. All of these different hashes are actually already blocked on my network because of Talos Threat Intelligence. So I could go from here and easily click on any one of these. I can do a file trajectory using it for endpoints, which we saw earlier, to see, hey, have these been seen anywhere on my network? So I can continue to pivot this investigation into every different facet and every different injection point that there could be. But in this case, I'm going to assume, since I haven't seen any alerts, that I don't have this in my network. So I don't think that that's part of the investigation I needed to go through. I can look at direct URLs, but all in all, where I came to this, and we won't go through the full investigation, is I said, look, I don't like where this is reaching out to, but I also know that it's being blocked on my firewall. So this is something that I'm seeing it attempt to reach out to, but it's actually failing because my firewall will actually cut off that communication. But even if it wasn't, this kind of raises the red flag on, all right, are these 5 domains here that are green? Am I comfortable with my users going out to them? So if I wasn't, I could simply click on one of these and block this domain in Umbrella. Now in my home lab, I actually don't have this integrated with Firepower. That's just something I haven't had time to do, but definitely I could also go in and add this to a block list on Firepower. And there is integration that allows for that to happen. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. But the other one that I really like is this idea of, look, these are kind of gray domains here. They're unknown or they've been deemed neutral. Well, if I look at some of these, I can very quickly say, look, I don't think this is not something that I think one of my users should be going to. I can simply just click on this and say, look, regardless if it's a green or red, I don't want them to go there. So I'm just going to block this domain. You'll notice once I hit block this domain, it's actually going to communicate with Umbrella. And then the lower right hand here in just a second, it's going to say block this domain was put in via Umbrella API. So now that domain on my network will be blocked from now on. Pretty cool, right? So all of this came back. Let's go back to the casebook. So this casebook is really great because this can actually follow the organization. So you could go through and see past cases that were investigated. You can use this to do your investigations and then mark the investigations as done. And it's a real easy way to show the snapshot of everything that you would be looking at. The last thing that I want to kind of point to is, and by the way, you can start an incident here, but also snapshots. So obviously this is a very dynamic field being in cybersecurity. So let's take a snapshot of what it looks like today. And I can just take that snapshot right here and of course compare that maybe days or weeks into the future, compare that snapshot and see how maybe things have changed in this dynamic landscape. So that's a quick investigation that I've done. This is certainly, and how to use Casebook. Again, go back, see my prior video if you need kind of a precursor into what Cisco Threat Response is and how to use it. But thank you all for your time. Again, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate your time. Take care. Be safe.